one. Hi neighbor, Alicia Dolan here at Creating in My Corner. I am so glad that you're joining me tonight. I'm just waiting a second to make sure that the video is live and that you can see me, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And when you see me live, if you can give me a thumbs up or say hi or somehow let me know that you can see me, then that will really help me out. Because it looks like I'm live, but sometimes I have a little bit of a hard time telling. And I don't see any comments yet, but I'll give it just a minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight, I wanted to work with a stamp set and punch bundle. Now, this bundle will be available in the next catalog, but not as a bundle. So if you buy something as a bundle, you get 10% off. Hi, Dawn. Good to see you tonight. If you buy something as a bundle, you get 10% off. So this is the Bottled Happiness stamp set, and it coordinates with this punch, which is the bottle punch. So this is what we're going to be using tonight. And if you order it before the new catalog goes live, then you'll get that 10% discount. I just want you to know so you don't miss out on that discount. I will turn the camera around in just a minute and we'll get started. It looks like you guys can see me because you're commenting. And I'm so glad you're here tonight. Give me just 1 minute and I will turn the camera around. We'll go to our stamping space and we'll get started creating something beautiful. As soon as I can find what link I need to click on. Okay, sometimes it's tricky. I'm going to mute myself for just a second in case I need to make any adjustments to the camera. That way you won't get that squeaky noise in your ear, but I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are over in our stamping space, and this is the stamp set we're going to use tonight. This is the punch that goes with it. I have a little bit of mess here on my table. I'm going to try and clean that up so that you don't have to worry about that. Here's my little faithful turtle Mortimer, who's going to help me with my glue tonight. And I haven't chosen any paper or anything yet, but I've got plenty stashed over here, so we shouldn't have any trouble finding anything. Okay, let's I think maybe we'll go with we'll try to go with kind of a springy color tonight. So I've got petal pink here, and I think it reminds me more of kind of a peachy color, but it's a nice soft spring color. And let's see, what else will we need? We need some paper. And I think let's go with some of this Country Gingham Designer Series paper. And last I checked, all of these items were still available. Now, things that are on the retiring list do tend to go fast. So if you're interested in this Gingham Designer Series paper, it's called Country Gingham, or the Bottled Happiness Punch and Stamp Set. It's not retiring, but it won't be sold as a bundle anymore. So that does make a difference. Sometimes people hurry to get it before it goes away. All right, so let's, if you're stamping along with me, we're gonna take a piece of our cardstock. And real quick, I just wanna show you, when I store my little pieces of cardstock, I get some of these clear envelopes from Stampin' Up, and I just put all the little pieces in there and then slide them in the pack. I find that having everything together like that, I'm much more likely to use up my scraps. So we can set those to the side for the moment because we're going to make our card base out of this petal pink. And today, let's make it the long way. So what we will do is cut our card here along the side at 4 1/4. And we're going to score it at 5 1/2. And tonight I thought it would be fun to make, let's see, what's it called? An easel card. So we've scored it here at 5 1/2, and then we're going to score it in half again. So that's going to be at 2, is it going to be at 2 3/4? I think that's right, but I need to measure real quick. Let me grab my ruler. If you don't have a clear ruler, that is a huge help. So 5 1/2, yep, 2 3/4 is going to be the center of that. So we're going to score it again at 2 3/4. Okay, and then when we fold our card, we're going to fold it in half, just like we would a regular card. Hold on a second. I put my bone folder a little farther off to the side. We're going to press it down, and then we're going to fold it again at that score mark. So we scored it right here at 2 3/4. What we're going to do is we're going to open it up and fold that down. And then we can press it again to make sure it's folded good. So now when we set our card up, it's going to fold like this. And I'll show you how we'll do that in just a few minutes, kind of as we go along. All right, so what I want to do is cut a piece that's going to fit down here. And I'm going to use this paper here. So we know that this is 2 3/4 and this is 4 1/4. So we want our piece to be 2 1/2 by 4. All right, and we're kind of designing as we go. I didn't pre-design this card, so we're designing as we go. So this is going to sit like this on the bottom of our card. All right, and I thought it would be really cool today if we did something a little bit different. So over here, hold on. Of course, I can't find it. I don't know. My pieces are a little bit small, but I think this is going to work. All right, let's see. Yeah. Okay. This clear piece here is a piece of window sheet. So Stampin' Up sells clear window sheet, which is kind of like it's similar to transparency film. So what we're going to do is use our Stays On Jet Black ink. Now this is a solvent ink, so it's a little bit different than the other kinds of ink. And we're going to use this little bottle outline here. And like I said, I did not design this ahead of time, so we're kind of we're stamping as we go. And I'm going to put on, we're designing as we go. I'm going to put this little bottle right on here. You have to be kind of careful because it's not a closed image, so you can easily move it out of shape a little bit. Now I'm going to ink up my stamp, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to press in my ink, but I'm not going to push hard. And then I'm just going to tap. And then with any photopolymer stamps, I like to stamp off once just to see how my image is going to turn out and make sure that I'm happy with it. Then I'm going to do the same process again. And I'm going to stamp over here. Wait a second. Okay, because I'm going to punch an image out, I need to measure first which way I need to stamp. And it looks like I need to stamp upside down to get my image to come out right this time. So I'm going to turn my stamp. I'm going to move this so I don't get my hand in it. Turn my stamp upside down. I'm just going to center it and press down. And when I stamp, I'm going to press in the center firmly, but I'm not pressing too hard. And then when I lift it up, there is my stamped image. Now you'll notice it's a little bit lighter here in the corner. That's because here, this corner of the stamp isn't, it's not there all the way. So it's just how the image is meant to be. You know how if you're looking at a glass, you don't always see all the lines because it's clear. That's kind of the impression that we get here. So I'm going to let that dry for just a second. I'm going to clean off my stamp. And I've got my chamois right here, and it's already wet. So I just need to scrub that on there a little bit. Maybe a lot. The Stays On ink has a tendency to really stick. So once I've scrubbed off as much as I can, I'm actually going to switch over to my scrub. And I've got a scrub right here and some Stampin' Mist. And so I'm just going to give that a little spray and then scrub this on there. The Stays On ink is really, it's a lot stronger, I should say more permanent. It's more permanent than what the Memento or even the classic inks are. And you'll notice that sometimes it does stain your stamps kind of a pinkish color. Now that's not going to affect their ability to stamp in the future. They're not going to pick up any of that color. Say if you were to use a yellow or any other color next, it wouldn't have a pink shadow to it. All right, so we're just going to take this off and stick that back in our case. All right, and then we're going to take our image here and we're going to punch it out with our punch. So we're just going to line that right up in the center and punch it out. Okay, and then here is our bottle. See how cool that is? I must have got my my window sheet scratched a little bit there in the middle, but that's okay. My bottle could be scratched too. So when you get your window sheets, they'll be like brand new. They won't be. I probably jammed mine in my paper stack one too many times, and it's the last little bit of a sheet left. So okay, and then we want to put this on here, but I want behind it to put the like some little flower stems maybe. Let's see what we've got in our stamp here. Wait, I don't see any little stems, but there are a lot of flowers. So let's see. We'll turn it over. Wait, this would be, I'm trying to figure out which side that would be. Okay, so that would be the front. We're going to turn it over to the back real quick. And I am going to take this Balmy Blue Stampin' Blend, and I'm just going to add a little bit of ink to the back of this bottle. I feel like you can't even see that, so I'm not sure how well that's working. But we'll know once we hold it over the white. Nope, I don't think that worked at all. Okay, so there's something we've learned today. That ink does not stick to the back of that at all. All right, so what we're gonna do is we'll get a little piece of white from right over here. Yeah, I have a little bigger packet for my white scraps because there are quite a bit more of them than the others. And we're going to need to stamp a couple things. So I'm just going to put this up here. All right, and we know that we want the bottom of this to be blue. So I'm going to take out that same stamp again. I haven't been watching for comments tonight, so if you're trying to tell me something, I'll have to look, and I'll definitely respond, but it might not be right away. Oh, the stays on. I've never tried the stays on spray. Can you use it on photopolymer? Because I know we had some stuff in a bottle, some stays on cleaner, but I'm pretty sure they said not to use it on photopolymer, only to use it on red rubber stamp. Okay, so I want this little part behind my bottle to be blue. So I've got some Balmy Blue ink here. You can, okay, I'm gonna remember that, Tammy. And what I'm gonna do is stamp off, because I want my blue to be really light. And then I'm gonna stamp on here. And now what I'm gonna do is, evidently drop my markers all over the floor behind me. I'm just going to color with a little bit of balmy blue down here at the bottom. And we'll see how this how it works. All right. And then let's see what happens if we put our little bottle over top. I think that'll work well. Okay. So now I'm going to punch this out. And I'm pretty sure that I stamped it the wrong way. I did, because I can't quite get up there with my punch. So I'm just going to cut off a little bit of that. Whoops. Bottom part. That's good to know, Tammy, because I haven't tried that. Only that little bottle of I can't even remember what that little stays on cleaner was called, but we used to have a little bottle with like a kind of a sponge end. It reminds me of one of those bingo daubers. Okay, so here is our bottle. So we've got our little bottle and this one here. So we'll attach those together, I think with a glue dot. And I wanted to show you a little tip that I have learned about the glue dots. Now, if you have been getting glue dots for a long time, you may know that they used to be on this side of the roll. And I used to just pick my piece of whatever up, lay it on the glue dot, peel it off, and use it that way. But since they changed it so that it's on this side of the roll, it's been harder to do that. What I just figured out, and maybe you guys have you've probably known this all along, but if you tear off that glue dot and then you just press it down where you want it to be, it's a lot easier to use those glue dots than trying it the other way. So I'm just going to put them down here and then maybe one up here in the corner where hopefully they'll be kind of hidden by that black stamped part. Okay, and then we'll just lay it right over top. Just like that. Okay, I don't really like that. I'm not happy with it. Okay. No, I don't like it. Hi, Kim. Okay. Oh, I don't know if we should go with it or not. I don't like it this way. All right, I'm tearing it apart. Okay, I don't know what's going to make it better, but I didn't like it like that. I almost like it better just up against the thing. Okay, we'll see. I'm going to try and peel some of those glue dots off. All right, let's keep going. We're just going to keep going. We're going to press on. It's going to be fine. But I definitely didn't like it that way. All right, I think it'd look cuter this way. So what we're going to do next is we are going to stamp the flowers. So in this set, there's two kind of sets of flowers. There's this one here with a lot more leaves, and then this one up here that has a lot more flowers. Now these little parts our flowers as well. So we are, let's see, we're going to stamp the little leaves first. And I need to put them on the block. I don't think I cleaned it off. Hold on. After I stamp that blue. Okay. So now we're going to peel that off. I should have taken this right off before we started, just so that it's out of the way. Okay. So we're going to put this on our block. And we need our little leaves here to be green. So see what green will go well with our pink. I think maybe. Let's go with soft green. This is a really pale green, but it's we're trying to make a spring card, so I think that will work. So we'll tap, tap, tap our stamp. We'll practice stamp here on the side. And that's a nice pale green. I think that's going to be perfect with this petal pink. So we'll stamp right here. And there is that. Let's clean that off. And this is actually a two-step stamp. So we're going to stamp the leaves and then we're going to stamp the flowers right over the top of that. So let's peel this off. And then we'll get this other flower image here. And we can lay that on our block. Let's see. I think it looks the best that way. And we'll get our petal pinky. And we're going to press and then tap, tap, tap. That's a lot more than tap, 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 but I like to tap a lot of times just to make sure I'm getting it right. And now comes the kind of tricky part. So we have to line this up. If we're using our Stamparatus, it makes it a lot easier, but I know that not everyone can get a Stamparatus. So tonight we're trying to do it without the Stamparatus. So it'll just take me a second to line up where my flowers go. And what I'm trying to do is line up these with the centers here of these other flowers. And we just kind of want to get close. They don't have to be perfect. And then we're going to press in the center, lift up, and there are our flowers. So there we've got that. And now we're going to fussy cut around these flowers because they're going to go on top of our jar like this. Okay. So we're going to take our scissors and we're going to remember to turn our paper, not our scissors. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. I know it's been kind of a rainy, dreary day. I've been hanging out in the basement here since I got home from church, except for I did go upstairs to make some chili. And I feel like I did something else up there, but for the most part, I've been down here in my craft corner today. That is the way I like to spend my Sunday afternoons. Crafting is one of the ways that I kind of recharge and reconnect and rest, believe it or not, even though sometimes it can be a little stressful if I have a deadline coming up. Crafting is really my happy place. Okay, here are our flowers. And here's our little bottle. Let's see. And I think what we'll do is we'll put a little bow around this bottle so that yeah, okay, let's see. We're gonna need that. And then a little bow. Okay, I think we're getting it. I think we're getting there. All right, so we've got our, let's start putting it together a little bit so we can see how it's really going. So here is our, this is going to be our easel card. So remember, we cut it at 4 1/4 by 11. We scored it at 5 1/2 and then 2 3/4. So this piece is 2 1/2 by 4. And we're going to attach this right here to the bottom part. Thank you for the glue, Mortimer. Being very helpful. So encouraging today. All right. And then see how I left that little spot for my finger. Don't forget to leave a little spot where you can pick it up, or you will end up sticky. All right, we're going to line that up in the center and press it down. I really wish I had figured out what I wanted to do with that water behind it, but I did not. Let's see. It's on the other side of our paper. Let's see. All right, so we're going to put our bottle on there, our flowers, our ribbon. And I think what we'll do is we'll pop our bottle up. I really was not excited about this. Oh, you know what we can do? Hold on. I have a new idea. All right, we're going to open this up. And we're going to punch out another bottle. Let's see. I think that piece is a little too small. Okay, we're going to punch out another bottle. I really did want it to be like there was a little blue water in there. So what I'm going to do is I have some little sponge daubers here, and I am sure that I have one that's blue. Right here, a little balmy blue. And what we'll do is we'll take and we'll add some ink to this bottle this way. And this way we can get just a little bit of ink right where we want it. We'll just spun it around the edges a bit. There we go. And in fact, let's add a little wink of Stella. Yes, the colored pencils probably would work. I'm just not sure where they are. I've been cleaning my space and it's a little bit of a mess. All right, so let's add some wink of Stella. And that'll give our bottle a little bit of sparkle and it'll blend some of that blue ink around. I do use the colored pencils a lot, Tammy. That's one of my favorite tools. I feel like I have a little more control with colored pencils, but it definitely takes me a little bit longer. Okay, so there's that. And then let's get a couple Stampin' Dimensionals. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these really skinny pieces here on the edge. So I'm just going to cut those. Maybe about 4 of them. And then we're going to stick them right along, let's see, right along those lines. Okay, so we're going to put them right on the sides here. Maybe one down here. Hopefully they won't be too obvious. We're using just the really skinny ones. Okay, so there's 3 of them. That should be enough. All right, and then we can add this right over top of our other bottle. And I do like the look of that a lot better than I like the look of the first one. Okay. And we're going to stick that right on the front here. And this is going to go above it. All right, so then we need a little bow. Oh, the colored pencils you used on vellum, Tammy? I've never tried that. Okay, so now we're going to make ourselves a little bow. We're going to have a loop on the left. We're going to go around the back and then up through the middle. Okay, now we're going to pull it really gentle until we have the shape that we want. Bows can be tricky. I don't know if everyone has trouble with bows, but I have trouble with bows. I have to go kind of slow. There we go. And we'll just trim off our ends here. Oh, that one doesn't look quite as angled as the other one. Okay, I could keep trimming forever, but I'm not going to do that. I always feel like the sides do not match no matter how many times I trim them. Okay, and now we've got our little glue dot here. And I am going to stick that right to my flowers. And then I'm going to put my flowers up here. So I'm going to glue my bottle right to my paper. I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue. I suppose I could have done that part first. All right, and I'm going to leave it so that it sticks up just a little bit. Okay, and now I want to glue my flowers on, but they cannot be glued to here. So I'm going to put a sticky dot here in the middle. Just like that. And I'm going to kind of glue it down a little bit far. So see how it kind of sticks out? Now we've got to make our piece for the bottom. So we need some more white. And we need to cut a piece that is 4 by 5 1/4. So here's 5 1/4. Whoop. Sorry about that. I'm getting a little too close to my trimmer tonight. 5, 4. Okay. Then we're just going to turn this over. And we're going to glue this part to the inside. I saw that 2 people have participated in the casing challenge from last week. So don't forget to do that. You can case the card that I made last week and post your card on my page to be entered in the drawing. And I think I'll do that drawing. I don't know if I already said or not when I would do the drawing. So I'm going to have to go back and look, but it's not yet. So you still have time. I will post, I'll post the end date after I go back and watch myself and see if I set a date or not. I'm not sure. Okay, so now we need the little part that's going to hold our easel card up. So we're going to use this sentiment right here, overflowing with happiness. And we're going to cut out one of these rectangle stitches to go with it. So let's just see. I think maybe this one right here is the right size. Yep. Okay, so we're going to use that. Now these rectangle stitches, is that what it's called? Yes, rectangle stitches framelits. These are retiring too. So if you haven't got them yet and they're still on the, they're a good card to make in class. All right, Kim, I will add that to the list. We will make this out of class soon. Okay. I can't remember if I cleaned off my stamp or not. You guys, I'm getting a little distracted tonight. I'll get it together. Okay. We'll put this one back away. I always try to make sure they're going the same way. I don't know that it matters to anyone else, but I like my stamps to match up with whatever's underneath. So just mostly so that I know they're all back in the right place. All right, we're going to put our overflowing with happiness here. And then let's see. I think we'll stamp it in black ink, but we don't need the StazOn this time. We'll just use Memento. And I've got that piece of white right here. I'm just setting the card off to the side for a minute. Okay, and then we're going to press and then tap, tap, tap. I'm going to practice stamp over here on the side. I know that's probably not necessary most of the time, but I have found it helpful for me. So you might find it helpful too, just to do that little practice stamp. And then I'm going to stamp right here. Press in the center. One other tip for when you're putting your stamps on your block, if you have a block that's a little bit bigger than your sentiment like this, and you want to keep your saying in the center, you don't want it off to the side, because if it's on the side, you're more likely to tip that block when you're inking it up or when you're pressing it down to stamp. So you'll get the best image if you try to keep it centered and keep your block and your stamp level when you're inking it up and when you're stamping. I could not believe that that's the first time I realized that about the glue dots, that it's so much easier if you just tear them off one at a time and stick them to whatever you're working on. Okay, I am going to die cut this sentiment out and I'll be right back. Okay, here we are with our sentiment. Okay, now, oh, I got to put this rectangle away before I forget, because I have lost some of my little rectangles. There should be 2 more up here. And I took this with me somewhere and I cannot find them because I put a magnet sheet in there and I can't close the lid. All right, so here's our sentiment, here's our card, and this is the way that we're going to make it pop up. We're going to turn this over and we're going to put our Stampin' Dimensionals here on the back, right? A little bit closer to the bottom, but still kind of in the middle. And then when we peel these off, we're going to stick this on the inside at the bottom, kind of in the center. So then our card looks like this, but when you open it up, it can tuck inside there and sit so that it's facing up. And there is a little bit of Wink of Stella in there. I hope you guys can see that a little bit. We could add some here to the flowers, but I'm going to put on some sparkly things. Hold on, let me see what. All right, let's put it on. Let's see. Do those look, maybe those little gold ones? I don't think those look quite right. Maybe these pink ones. Some of those look like the right pink. Okay, so these are the pastel adhesive back sequins. And they are in the current catalog, so you can order those. All right, and I'm gonna try and grab the ones that have a little bit of the same kind of pink that our card has. So I'm gonna put one here, one up here, Let's grab a kind of a big one and we'll put it up here. We'll go, let's see. Let's just put these sequins all over. Maybe here. And then maybe one down here. You know what? And let's put one on the inside too, because why not? We can put one right here on the Overflowing with Happiness. All right, so here is our card for tonight. It's a fun fold easel card. And I will be sending out the instructions for this by Wednesday. So if you are not on my email list, you're going to want to sign up. I'll also post the video over on YouTube so you can watch it anytime. If you go over there, there's all kinds of my videos are over there. You can look up the past ones so you can get ideas for those stamp sets and items that are retiring that you have. And I'm always trying to come out with new videos. So if you have suggestions, just let me know. If there are questions that you have, like about the mini glue dots or about how to use adhesive or any of those things, just let me know. And I am happy to try and help you answer your questions. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm so glad that you're here. Next Sunday, I'm not sure what we'll be doing next Sunday, but there'll be another wonderful video. So I hope that you can join me. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I will see you next week.